Shalom and welcome to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. This is a recording of a Shabbat teaching with TBA Rabbinic Intern Joshua Jacobs.
Shemini Atzeret, to me, I've always wondered what it means. It sort of seems like this strange holiday that doesn't really have a specific reason. And my dad, who's here watching, he had always told me that why he loves it, it's one of his favorite holidays, is that for him it's God saying, just stay a little longer. You know, you've had this big marathon of all of these Chagim and Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and now at this point, Sukkot, we're probably anxious to go back home and return to our lives. And so Shemini Atzeret is God's way of saying, just hold on, give me one more day. Don't go home just yet. And in that way, an obscure holiday that doesn't seem to have much of a reason juts up to being one of the top holidays for him, and now so too for me. So the first source I wanted to share with you is Rashi, who says the same. He says, Atzeret hu, the word is derived from the root word atzar, to hold back, and suggests, I keep you back with me one day more. It is similar to a king who invited his children to a banquet for a certain number of days. When the time arrived for them to take their departure, he said, children, I beg of you, stay one day more with me. It is so hard for me to part with you. The next source is from Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs, which is only appropriate if we do see this holiday as an expression of God's love. Shir HaShirim being an allegory for God and the people of Israel, and one of our quintessential love pieces of Torah. It goes, Shemini kachotam al libecha. Let me be a seal upon your hand, like the seal upon. Let me be a seal upon your heart, like the seal upon your hand. For love is fierce as death. Passion is as mighty as Sheol. Its darts are darts of fire, a blazing flame. So the first thing, if you have the Hebrew in front of you, you might notice Shemini kachotam. Seal me like a seal, or set me like a seal. Shemini sounds a lot like and looks a lot like Shemini. So the next source is from the Bnei Yisachar, a Hasidic master, who picks up on that and says so too. Shemini Atzeret is a day that exemplifies that yearning and that love of let me be a seal upon your heart, like the seal upon your hand. And if I had more time, I would open it up and ask you what that reminds you of. But what it reminds me of is Hoshea ve'arastichli, the wrapping of tefillin the prayer we say when we wrap tefillin originally in prophets is this engagement ceremony. It's sort of like an engagement ring. It's a symbol of God's love, of our love for God and God's love for us. So it's echoing there. And also the idea of Shemini kachotam, we're coming at the very end of Yom Kippur, right after Yom Kippur, we're done. We just prayed to be sealed in the Book of Life. So we have this continuation of this idea of being sealed in this way, in a loving way, reaching out to God, God reaching out to us. The Bnei Yisachar says, Shemini Atzeret, that is the day of Simchat Torah. He's linking them together. For we finish the Torah with the letter Lamed and start with the letter Bet. So we're all familiar that the first word of Torah is Bereshit, God creating the world in the beginning. And the final letter, which we're reading now, is Yisrael. That's how the Torah ends. So ends with a Lamed, begins with a Bet. And as we know, our tradition is to never be done because we're never done with Torah. So right when we finish, we start right back with Bereshit. And in that way, we combined the letter Lamed with the letter Bet, which spells out Lev, heart. So in that continuing of Torah, which we do, it's another way in which this idea of lovers reaching out to one another, our love for God, God's love for us, reach out and seal one to the other. The Bnei Yisachar continues, this is the day for the total unification of the Blessed One in the community of Israel. As it says in the Zohar, Rabbi Eliezer opens and said, let me be as a seal on your heart. At the moment when the community of Israel cleaves to her master, that is the thing of being set as a seal. And he concludes, and from this point, whether one understands what is before one from one day to the next, that full unity is there for the community of Israel. Wherever they go, let me be a seal on your heart applies. which I think is a lovely idea to bring into all of this, because as we go back home, we might feel that, okay, this marathon we've had with God is over now, or we're going back home. And I think if we feel that way, we've missed the point, because the goal is to emerge from this experience different, not just return to who we were prior. So Atzeret, right, it means tarry, stay here a little longer. It could also mean retain. You want to retain all of the spiritual work that we've done throughout these holidays and bring it back home with us, so that it's with us wherever we go. We feel God's love most imminently in the sukkah, but when we take the sukkah down, that doesn't go away. We bring it with us. So my final text, and I'll turn it over to Larry, is from Pirkei Avot. All love that depends on something, when that thing ceases, the love ceases. And all love that does not depend on anything will never cease. The Hebrew is beautiful, and if I had time, I would read that as well. But the reason I'm bringing this is to go back to the beginning of this study. My question was, what is Shemini Atzeret? What does it mean? Why do we celebrate it? What's the reason? It doesn't seem like there's a set reason. It's not Pesach, where we're celebrating our liberation from bondage. It's not a Sukkot, where we're commemorating that God had us dwell in booths in the desert. There's no specific reason for this holiday. And I think Pirkei Avot is saying, well, sometimes love doesn't need a reason. And in fact, that might be the strongest form of love, is when there isn't a specific reason. It's not based on beauty. It's not based on intellect. It's not based on anything in particular. This is just a pure love that transcends reason. If we had more time, I would then read the lyrics from Make You Feel My Love, which was originally written by Bob Dylan and covered by Adele, because when you read it over with this sort of Shemini Atzeret mindset of God making us feel God's love, the song takes on new meaning, and it actually has a lot of rain imagery too, which is very connected to Sukkot and Shemini Atzeret. So I encourage you after Chag to look up those lyrics and tell me if you are viewing it differently than you have before.
You have been listening to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. If you enjoy these podcasts, we invite you to write a review on the Apple Podcast site or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about Temple Beth Am Los Angeles, go to tbala.org.